started. So, in the writing process, so far you guys have read the Termite Mountain text, yes? And you underlined some evidence, right?
Yes.
And then you read the gorilla text, right? And you underlined some evidence. And the other thing you have on your desk is a writing prompt, right? So this is telling you what you're going to have to do with the information from these texts, right?
Yeah.
So what you've done, if you look over here at the hand, the 6 steps of writing success, you guys have completed step 3, which is read to write and find evidence, because you've read both texts and you've underlined evidence, right?
Yeah.
So the next step says to organize your evidence and plan. That organizing your evidence might be something kind of new, but what do you think I mean by organize your evidence? What do you think?
By putting all the things together.
Okay, so putting all the things that you underlined together, what else could it mean?
Something that, like, you have gorilla that's harder to think. You can write that down, and then you can underline. You can copy what you underlined.
Okay, you could put what you underlined on the chart. What else?
You could think about what you want to write about.
What you want to write about. That's exactly what we have to do, is we have to figure out what we want to write about. Now, do you guys know how much evidence or how many pieces of evidence you should put into an essay? Do you guys have any idea? What do you think? Like a whole paragraph, right? So how many pieces might go in a paragraph? What do you think?
Probably like 6 or 7.
6 or 7? That's a lot. What do you think?
5.
5? Well, not sentences, but pieces of evidence from the text. How many do you think you need in your essay? What do you think?
I think 4.
You think 4? Okay. Well, I'm going to make it really easy on you guys, because we actually are only going to do like 2. Okay? Yeah. Because there's other stuff that has to go into the essay, not just evidence. Okay? So we're going to work through that process. But do you have more than 2 things underlined in each text?
Yes.
So we have to now figure out which pieces out of all of that do we think are the most important to put into our essay. So that's why we're going to do this right here. We're going to organize our ideas, okay? So I want you to have this chart in front of you, and we're going to start by writing down the task, audience, and purpose from the prompt. So I want you to have your T-chart and your prompt right there on your desk, and we're going to work together to fill that out. So I know you already worked to unpack your prompt. What did we determine was your task? I think you put a box around it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
How animals help each other.
How animals help each other. So I want you guys to fill this out just like I am. We always want to have our task in mind when we're completing the steps. How animals help each other. That's our task.
Animals.
Who did we talk about might be our audience? Who might be our audience? Yes, ma'am.
People who want to learn about animals.
People who want to learn about animals. People who, we'll just say like animals, just to make it a little shorter. People who like animals. So go ahead and write that down. I see a thumbs up. That tells me some of you are starting to finish. I see pencils moving, so I'll give you a little bit of time. Nice. All right, how about our purpose? What was our purpose that we identified? Yes, ma'am, back there. Yes. An informative essay, absolutely. So write informative essay. So let's go ahead and write that down. So go ahead and fill in that last piece of the top. Yes.
Number 1.
To write a little bit longer? Yeah. Okay. What do you think we're going to put right here? What do you think?
The titles of the termite mounds and gorillas.
Yes, absolutely. So which one did you read first? Do you remember?
Gorillas are then smarter than you think.
Was that in your independent rotation? And then what do you think?
Termite mounds.
Termite mounds? Okay. It doesn't really matter, right, as long as you know which one is which. But for the sake of today, let's actually make termite mounds source 1. And gorillas are smarter than you think.
Gorillas are smarter and then ducks.
Oh, look at you, using ellipses. Nice. So, then you think. Sometimes titles are long, right? As you finish writing those titles, I want you to get the termite mound text out first, because that's the one we're going to focus on first. So as a few of you are finishing up with the titles, who can tell me what information you were looking for when you read this text? So you were asked to underline things, but what were you looking for to underline? Yes, sir.
You are looking for to underline the main idea and the key details.
The main idea and the key details, but according to our writing prompt, what are you going to have to write about? What do you think?
We're collecting our evidence and our key details. In our different evidence and details.
It's evidence and details, but about what specifically? Can you help her out?
How animals help.
How animals help each other, right? So when I ask you to look at each paragraph to tell me if you underlined anything that explained or told you a detail about how animals can help each other. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to do this side of the chart. We're not going to write every word from here because that would be a waste of time, okay? But I'm going to show you how we're going to make this stuff go onto this chart, and that's going to help you determine what to put into your essay. So in paragraph 1, did we underline anything that told specifically how animals or termites help other animals? Do you have something from paragraph 1? What do you have?
So, oh, not from paragraph.
Not from paragraph 1.
Underline anything from paragraph.
Okay, you didn't find anything in paragraph 1?
Something in paragraph 2.
Did you have something in paragraph 1?
In paragraph 1, I put other animals.
Oh, that's paragraph 2.
Paragraph 2.
Yeah.
So the gorillas are smarter than you think.
Oh no, we're doing termite mounds.
Oh, termite mounds.
Termite mounds. Paragraph 1, no?
Yeah. Cheetahs
No.
often use the.
That's paragraph 3. Look at those numbers all the way to the left.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so how about paragraph 2? What did you find in paragraph 2? Yes, sir, here in the front. What did you find? Ezekiel.
Other animals and weak areas use termite mounds.
Okay, so it says other animals use their mounds. So what we're going to do is we are going to put a number 2 here because it comes from paragraph 2. And we are just going to say other animals use mounds. So not the whole sentence. We don't need to copy the whole sentence. We just need to kind of write a few key words telling us about that sentence. And the sentence said, other animals in these areas use termite mounds too. So basically, I just took a few of the words from that sentence and wrote it here, and that gives me enough information about the sentence. You with me? Okay. How about in paragraph 3? What did we underline in paragraph 3? Yes, sir, in the back.
Cheetahs use the mound as a lookout point.
Yes. So right here, next to this dot, we're going to do a 3 because this is coming from paragraph 3. We always want to keep track of what paragraph it's coming from because then it's easier to go back and find it, okay? So we're going to say cheetahs, and then we're just going to say lookout point. We don't need to write the whole sentence. That's a waste of time, but we just need to give ourselves an idea of what it's about. Now, did you have other things underlined in paragraph 3? Or is it all about the lookout point? What do you think? What do you think?
Sometimes, no, never mind.
Oh, that's 4. Okay, what do you think?
So, I didn't underline anything else in paragraph 2,
3.
3, but I don't think it's mostly about,
So I think what I'm seeing is they're kind of explaining what the lookout point means, right? So it means that they're climbing to the top to look for their next meal. So I think that kind of has to do with this, right? So let's move on to our next paragraph. Was there anything in paragraph 4 that you guys underlined? What do we think?
Sometimes termites move the nest, and that's good for other animals,
Oh.
so they can have.
Okay, so there's 3 sentences there. I think maybe we can say for paragraph 4, we can say, let's see, they leave their nests for others, right? So it's just saying that basically when they move out, other animals do things with their old nests, right? So again, we don't need to write the whole sentence here. We're just giving ourselves an idea of all of the pieces of evidence that we have as options for our essay. You guys ready for paragraph 5?
Yes.
Okay, what did we find in paragraph 5? Let's see who I haven't heard from or heard from in a while. All right, what do you think? Yeah.
Some animals make the empty nest their new home. Mongoose or some animals make the empty nest for their new home.
So, and it goes on to say that mongooses are small animals. They make a hole in the mound, and it keeps them safe from other animals, right? So let's say 5, and let's say mongooses use as home. Okay, so again, we just need to give ourselves a few quick words to let us know what it's about. And it's about the fact that they're using the termite mounds as their home. Are any other animals helped in that same paragraph? What do you think?
So, it also says, well, we underlined something else. Also, when we did the other one of this, we wrote, mongooses and other small animals use them to stay safe.
Okay, I really like that. So what's the other small animal that it mentions specifically?
Snakes.
Snakes, okay? So let's do paragraph 5, and we could always combine this, but we're going to also say snakes use as home as well. Now I do really like the safe word, so I'm just going to add it up here, safe, because I think that's pretty important, okay? And it might help us out later on. Now we only have one more paragraph. So I'm going to have you guys help me out here. What would we put on this chart for paragraph 6? What did you find for paragraph 6? Yes, sir.
Elephants use them as a scratching post.
Who else does?
And rhinos.
And rhinos, right? So how might I put that here? I don't want to say the entire sentence. So how can I, what couple words could I put here? I can put the name of the animal, right? So elephants and rhinos, or large animals, that would be good. Elephants and rhinos, and then what else could I put? What do they do?
They use this scratching post.
Yeah, so just, we're going to try to abbreviate. Use as scratching post. So we don't need every word of the sentence. We just need to give ourselves a quick little clue as into what they're doing with it. So once you get used to this step, it's not going to take you very long. You're not doing a whole lot of extra writing, but what you're going to start figuring out when you get used to doing this step is that it's going to help you with your plan, and then it's going to help you write a better essay. Because you took the time to really think about which evidence you wanted to use in your essay. Because we do not want you to use every single piece of evidence in your essay. Does anybody know why we might not want to use everything in our essay? Why do you think?
because you're gonna copy and then once the teacher takes away and it's a test, you won't know what to do.
Right, right. So you'd be copying what's already been written. What's another reason? Yes, sir.
Also, so it's not like 6 different pages
Oh,
full of writing.
Right. We're not writing a book right now, right? We're just writing like a quick little 4-paragraph essay. What else?
Also, if you're just writing information down, it's not going to really make sense.
Right. So really what they've asked us to do on this writing prompt is they've asked us to write an informative essay about how animals help each other. They didn't ask us to write a summary of this entire article, right? A summary, you might want to include all of that information. But that's not what they asked us to do. They asked us to explain how animals can help each other. So we are going to decide which pieces we want to put into our essay, right? We don't have to use all of the pieces. Now, before we start figuring out what to do with all of that, I want to go ahead and do this evidence next, okay? Because sometimes when you have 2 texts, sometimes you can find similarities between the evidence in both texts, right? Now this time, because one is about termites and one is about gorillas, there may not really be anything that kind of matches up, all right? But you don't necessarily know that until you put all of the evidence down on the paper. So we're going to do the exact same process we did with the termite mounds, but now we're going to do it with your gorilla text. So pull that out. Pull out your gorilla text. You got a question?
I have something to say. It doesn't really help the other animals, but in the gorillas thing, it talks about how chimpanzees in the Congo use sticks to stick into the termite mound. So
Right.
It doesn't really help the other animals.
Right, I got you. That's a good point to make. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with paragraph 7. Okay, paragraph 7. What evidence did you underline, if any, in paragraph 7 that explain maybe how gorillas help each other or help other animals? What did you find?
Gorillas learn the new cultures.
Okay, is that from paragraph 7? Look at paragraph 7. Do you have anything?
Oh, gorillas learn from other gorillas.
They learn from other gorillas. So again, we do a number 7 here because we want to know what paragraph it came from. And we're going to say learn from other gorillas. That's all we need to put. They learn from other gorillas. Take a look at paragraph 8. Did you guys underline anything from paragraph 8? Yes, ma'am.
Paragraph 8. I said they learn new behavior.
They learn new behaviors, right? And they're learning that from each other, right? So what else did you guys underline in paragraph 8? Anything? What'd you have?
Gorillas are not all born behaving the same way.
Okay. So if we're thinking about our task, which is to write about how animals help each other, does that sentence explain how they help each other? So when you want to think about the evidence that you're pulling, you really want to go back to your task, which is why I had you rewrite it up here. Because we always want to remember what we're being asked to do. So I think out of paragraph 8, the line about them learning new behaviors from one another, I think that's going to be our best piece of evidence from this paragraph. But remember, we don't have to use every piece of evidence. We're going to determine which pieces are better than the others, and that's what we'll do. Paragraph 9. What evidence did you find in paragraph 9 that explains how animals can help each other? What did you find?
That this means that their behavior changes because they watch the animals around them.
Yes.
So their behavior changes from the animals around them.
Okay, so for 9, we're going to say behavior changes from watching others. Okay? Behavior changes from watching others. So real quick, a few little words to explain what it is that we have to write down. All right, how about paragraph 10? What do we see in paragraph 10? Yes, ma'am, towards the back. Yes. Yes.
Number 10.
Yes.
In the past, scientists found some apes have different ways of getting. Hold on. I lost it. Of getting food and using tools.
So where in the paragraph does it tell how like an animal learns something from another animal? What's it saying? Okay. Can you help her out in the back?
Me?
Yeah. What did they learn? What did they learn about in this paragraph from watching each other?
So what they learned is that they put a stick into a mountain of dirt where termites live. The chimps they could. So gorillas. The way gorillas tried to eat the termites, they move the electric wire.
Oh, that's the next paragraph. Just talk about this one. So they used the stick to dig out the termites, right? But how did they know how to do that? You're right. How'd they know how to do it?
Well, how they do it is they watch the other gorillas.
Oh, nice. Okay. So for paragraph 10, we're going to say that they learned how to dig out termites. Okay, so that's what they learned. So remember, we're looking for how did animals help each other, and they learned how to dig out termites by watching one another. Wesley, you have a question?
That wasn't gorillas, it was chimpanzees.
Oh, chimpanzees, right. But we're talking,
And
monkeys
they
in
didn't learn
general.
from other together, it just said that.
Look at the last sentence in paragraph 10. They learn to do it by watching one another. Last sentence in paragraph 10. Are you ready for 11? Are you ready for 11? Paragraph 11?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I just have a connection.
You have a connection. I want to hear it.
It talks about termites and it talks about how termites get involved in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like termite mounds and gorilla in paragraph 10, because it said they learn to dig out termites, and it says on paragraph 1, termites are insects that live together.
You're right. That is a really good connection between the two texts. We'll see if we can use that connection when we start organizing our evidence. But first, let's finish recording our evidence. So what did we find from paragraph 11? How do animals help each other in paragraph 11? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. What did they learn from one another in paragraph 11?
Some gorillas
Okay, so learned to eat bark without getting shot, right? So there's more to that sentence, but we don't need to write the whole sentence. We just need to give ourselves an idea of what it's about. So I want you to finish writing that piece of evidence because now we're going to get to the part where we have to make some decisions, okay? We've got to figure out where we decide or how we decide to pick the evidence for our essay. Because again, like we talked about, we are not using every piece of evidence that we found. We don't need every piece of evidence. That's not what they've asked us to do. Okay? What's your name? What's your name? Huh? Carlos? So Carlos found a connection between the two texts because this one's talking about termite mounds and the other one's talking about termite mounds, but I think that might be our only connection, right? So I'm not sure if we could write a whole body paragraph about it. So what it looks to me like is that we'll probably write one body paragraph about the termites, right? And maybe one about this gorilla text. But we have to determine which pieces of evidence we'll use for body paragraph 1 and which pieces of evidence we'll use for body paragraph 2. So this is where it gets tricky, and this is probably something you've never done before. But here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about, do you see anything in common between any of these pieces of evidence? Or do you see any pieces of evidence that kind of are talking about the same thing? Because what we're trying to determine is we're trying to determine kind of our big ideas to write about in our paper, and then which pieces of evidence support those big ideas. So do any of these things have to do with the same thing? Where do you see connections? What do you see?
In termite mounds,
Mm-hmm.
I see a connection of, so a lot of animals in the area use the termite mounds, like cheetahs use it for a lookout point.
Right.
Mongooses use it as a place to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
And snakes do the same thing with it.
Oh,
And,
wait a minute. Stop right there. Because that's a connection, right?
Yeah.
So this piece of evidence from paragraph 5 connects with this piece of evidence from paragraph 5 because they're both talking about two different animals using the termite mounds as a home, right?
Yeah.
And what was this key word we used right here, right? So they used it to stay safe. All right, you see how I did this little arrow here?
Yeah.
From this piece of evidence to that piece of evidence? I want you to do that on your paper, and I want you to write this word right here, safe. Because that's a connection that we're making between two pieces of evidence. Now, they came from the same paragraph, but it is talking about two different types of animals. Okay? So, where else do you see a connection? Now, let's talk first. Who are they staying safe from? Who would they be staying safe from? Yes. Yeah.
They're staying safe from. What are going on?
Well, we're on the termites, but we're talking about mongooses and snakes. Who do you think they're trying to stay safe from?
They're trying to stay safe from other predators.
Oh, that's exactly it. Safe from
Safety of
predators. Yes. So I probably should have written that in a different color, so I'll circle it. But safe from predators. I want you to write that. Now, it never really talks about that in the paper, but that's good because what we're doing is showing that we understand what we read and we're actually thinking about what we read before we write about it. That's how you really show them that you understand what you've been asked to do. So we made a connection there. Now, this last piece of evidence, elephants and rhinos using it as a scratching post, does it talk about anything like that anywhere else in the paper?
No.
So in paragraph 4, 3, or 2, are any of those having to do with animals using it as a scratching post or as anything like that? Do you see any connections to that?
No. Yeah.
So what do you think? You do? What do you see?
Where it says here that on
Remember, right now, I just want you to look at the graphic organizer. Because we've already pulled everything we need from here. So then no, right? Okay? So what do you think we're going to do with this piece of evidence if it doesn't go with anything else? What do you think?
Scrap it. Don't need it.
We don't need it. Look at that.
scrap it.
Yep, scrap it.
We're supposed to exit.
We're going to, exit out. Yeah. Because here's why. In order to really show them that you understand what you read and you understand what you're writing about, you're not going to talk about everything in the text because you don't need to talk about everything in the text.
It's like disappointment.
Right. It could be disappointing, for sure. Yes, ma'am.
For another, like another same
Connection?
Yeah, like a connection. Gorillas are smarter than we think.
Hold on. We got to stick to termites because remember, if we're going to do one body paragraph about termites, we're going to need probably another piece of evidence because these two, they're kind of from the same paragraph, so that might just be one. So do we see anything else on here that might have to do with anything else? This is where it's going to get tricky. This is the hardest part of the entire process. But this is the part that really shows true understanding and thinking. What do you think?
So at the first one I wrote, it says other animals use the mounds, and then at number 4 it says termites leave the nest for other animals.
Yep. So absolutely those two could make a connection because they're both sentences that just kind of generally say how the mounds are used for other things, right? So other animals use the mounds and then they leave the nest for others to use. So that kind of says the same thing, right? What do we think we're going to call that? Like what would be the category for that? The idea that maybe others use their mounds? Something like that? Okay, others use mounds. Okay? But I'm really going to push your thinking right now. Because I want you to look at the one piece of evidence that we haven't really talked about. Which piece is it? This one right here? Cheetahs. What do the cheetahs use the mound for? Yes, ma'am.
So they're home.
No, look at this. They use it for what?
The point.
A lookout point. What does that mean, though? Do you remember back in the text? What are they looking out for?
The next meal.
Their next meal. So, what does that make a cheetah then?
Predator.
A predator.
A predator.
Oh, right? Yeah. So, we have a connection. Now that the text did not really give us this connection. This is something that we had to take some time and really think about. So we had already determined that one thing we could put in our paragraph was that mongooses and snakes use it as a home to stay safe from predators. But then here we have another animal that uses it for the opposite reason because they are the predator, right?
Yeah.
That could be pretty interesting to write about in a body paragraph, right? So we're going to, this piece right here, we're going to just put predator here. And then we might know that we're going to talk about the cheetahs, the mongooses, and the snakes in our body paragraph. But now that we've made connections with termites, we're done doing that for now, and we're going to go to our next text set, or our next text, and do the same thing. Yes, ma'am.
For like the same.
Yep. So are you ready with gorillas? Do you see anything that relates to one another or that's common?
That behavior changes from others and learning behaviors.
Okay. And actually 7 kind of says that too, but I like how you picked out the word behavior in both of these. So again, we can do that little triangle or arrow, and we're going to just say behaviors, right? So we know that we have 2 pieces of evidence, and our body paragraph could be about the behaviors. But I want to stretch you a little bit. I want to see if you can find another commonality or another relationship between any other evidence. So look at the other pieces of evidence we have here. Where do you might see a connection? What do you think, Carlos?
I think how the connection is, you know how termites use the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Gorillas use the same thing to get the termites, except that it's kind of like a food chain where
It is, yeah. That would be some really good insight or elaboration to put in there, right? To talk about that food chain. But I want to focus right now on the pieces of evidence that we have here on this chart and where we might see a connection. What do you think?
So 10 and 11.
What's the connection?
It's both talking about how the animals get food from, and they learn it from others.
That's exactly it. I love that connection because it's 2 different examples, but both of them have to do with food, right? So in 10, they learned from others how to dig out the termites to eat them, and in 11, they learned from others how to push away the wires to eat the bark. So we're going to say food here. So here is the really, really good news about these 2 texts. We have lots of evidence to choose from to put into our essay. And I told you at the beginning of the class period that for right now, we're really only going to probably use 2 pieces of evidence for each body paragraph, which means we need a total of 4 pieces of evidence. It would be 2 from the termites for body 1, 2 from the gorillas for body 2. Okay? So how many pieces do we have to choose from over here? We have a lot, right? We could either talk about them using them at just using the mounds, or we could talk about the animals that stay safe from predators and then the cheetah that uses it to be a predator, right? Which one do you think would be more interesting to talk about? Or which one do you think you might have more elaboration or insight to add to? The one about they use the mounds, or the one about they try to stay safe and not get eaten, or they use it to find their next meal? What do you think?
they use the mounds.
They use the mounds? What do you think? What kind of details do you think you could give about that? Like, how would you talk about how they use the mounds?
Like, they use the mounds for shelter.
Right. But if you're going to talk about shelter, then you just want to use the evidence that talks about shelter, right? So that means maybe this piece of evidence is too, broad. It's too big. You need to talk about something much more detailed. So if you want to talk about shelter, you've got evidence right here talking about shelter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? So what do you think? Yeah?
I agree with Carlos because I think we should write about how mongooses and snakes
Oh, okay.
are protective, but also has something else to say.
What else?
So I don't think it says that cheetahs use as lookout point and mongooses and snakes use as a safe place. I don't think the cheetahs would be the meal would be the mongooses or the snakes.
It may not be, and that's okay. That's okay, because remember the connection we found was that cheetahs are predators and they use the mounds as their lookout point. And these are two small animals that are trying to stay safe from predators. It doesn't matter if it's actually the cheetah that's the predator. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is I have another color. I know you guys don't, but for you guys to see it, I think we're going to use this evidence and this evidence in our paragraph. And we might just combine the mongooses and snakes as one piece. Wesley, you got a question?
I got another connection.
What's the other connection?
Well, I see two predators. You see, it says, well,
Predator?
friend.
That's exactly why I circled those. Look at that. We've done it over here. Now we need to do it here. So for body 2, would you rather write about these two pieces talking about the behaviors, or would you rather use these two pieces talking about how they learn to get food? Which one do you think you might have more to say about?
We only have about 15 more minutes.
Okay, we'll be done real soon. What do you think, Carlos?
I think it's how it's about their behavior.
Okay. So what behaviors would you talk about?
Like, let's say one's playful and the other's not. They can learn from that behavior.
So let's talk about that. Did it ever say anything about being playful? No? Did it? So we have to remember our task is to write a text-based essay, which means we really need to focus on the evidence that's in the text. So if playful was something you wanted to put in for your elaboration or your insight and it connected, then you could use that. But when you're thinking about what evidence to use, you have to use the evidence that's been given to you. So we've already determined we have two options. We can either write about how they learn new behaviors and their behavior changes from watching each other, or we can talk about the more detailed evidence, which is how they learn how to get their food. And there's two different ways they do that. So which one do you think you might have more to say about? The food? We need food, right? It's important that we're able to find food and get food. So when you are making decisions about what evidence you want to use in your essay, you have to think to yourself, what do I know more about? Or what do I think is more important? Or what do I think is more detailed that might help my essay sound better? And in this case, I do think it's the food ones. Okay, so you see how I circled those two? Now, tomorrow, you guys are going to work to then move this evidence to your plan, which is the 4 boxes, right? Most of the work has been done for you because what you've determined is that you are going to write about, for body 1, you are going to write about something with predators. We need to determine that. So body 1's evidence is some animals use the mounds to hide from predators. Some of the animals use the mounds to be predators, right?
Yeah, like the real ones.
Yes.
Oh, I can see that.
So right now, all this evidence that we have is the evidence that we're gonna need for
your essay?
yes. for
So
our
it's
essay.
not going to be every piece of this. It's only going to be the ones I circled in red,
Yes.
right? So that's going to be the evidence we put in our paper. So we know that body 2 is going to be mainly talking about how animals help each other by being able to find food. And then this one also kind of has to do with food too, right? Because if you're talking about predators and prey, right? So for now, we're just going to put, oh, I like that. See, this is where that food chain, right, idea comes in. I'll put that down as an idea. And what you're going to brainstorm tomorrow is how to write your controlling idea for the essay using these 2 ideas. So what we just did, you guys, and you did so good. I'm really, really proud of you because you really came up with some ideas that weren't from the text because you found some really cool connections. So remember, the goal of step 4 is to organize all of the evidence you found in order to find connections and pick the best pieces for your essay. It's called sorting and categorizing it. So we try to find connections and we figure out what those connections mean or what they would be called, like behaviors, food, predators, right?
Yep.
Thank you guys so much. You did really, really great today.